This episode of Planet Noun is not meant to diagnose any gynecological or other medical condition. My sister and I are not doctors. We're discussing our personal journeys. If you think you may have uterine fibroids or any other GYN condition, please, please, please see your doctor.
Oops, mommy, I apologize now because I'll be cursing sometimes.
Well, yeah.
Sorry, not sorry.
Meet my sister Lea. She tried to keep her mouth clean. She's a hoot and a half and my guest for this episode of Planet Noun, where it's all about people, places, things, and ideas. So this time, it's a thing. Well, depending on how bad you've got it, it's a whole bunch of things. It's also about a place that all people encounter during life's dawning days, the human uterus. So it's the last day of Uterine Fibroid Awareness Month, and Lea and I know about these benign tumors very well. They've been our fairly constant companion for some years now. We want to be free of the monsters. That's what she calls hers. But we've learned to live with them, mostly in the shadows, mostly quiet about them. But we're tired. Well, let me speak for myself. I'm tired, woe out, and I want freedom from this secret. Hello there. My name's Liz, the host of Planet Noun, and I have uterine fibroids that beat me up on occasion. According to a National Institutes of Health fact sheet on uterine fibroids, most American women will get them sometime during life. They say one study showed by age 50, 70% of white women and 80% of African American women were graced with these bastards. Well, the fact sheet didn't call them bastards. That was all me. I saw one site that upped it to 90% for African American women. Either way, my sister and I are not 50, and we have them, so we're part of that number. And the fact sheet continues, quote, "In many cases, fibroids are believed not to cause symptoms, and in such cases, women may be unaware they have them." Honey, that shoal ain't us. We're all symptomatic up in this joint, but we're not alone in wanting freedom from these things. We start our conversation with our discovery that folks were actually talking about them. I didn't even know that July was Fibroid Awareness Month. I had no idea.
I found out a couple of years ago. You know, the girl with the white dress project? That's when I found out. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. I started following her on Instagram. But that's when I found out. But it's just interesting that even though I still, outside of her, I didn't see a lot of activity in terms of people recognizing Fibroid Awareness Month. People know automatically October is Cancer Awareness, and you have Women's Month in March, and all these other things that people just know about. And here we have something that affects a ton of people.
It's not just Black women. I mean, it's a larger percentage of Black women, but not just Black women.
Yeah, of us. Yeah, but not just us. Right. That is correct. But it amazes me that there isn't a lot said. And I guess I kind of get it because, it can be kind of personal and the things that come along with having fibroids. Mm-hmm. People don't necessarily want to talk about.
Girl.
Because it can be nasty. It can be disgusting. But it's real.
And that's the thing. Okay, so it can be nasty and it can be disgusting. But girl, this is one of the things that is making me want to talk about this. I'm so sick of being in the damn shadows with this cuss word. I might have to edit that out. I am tired of being in the shadows with this foolishness. That's the edit in case I decide I don't want to cuss because I don't want my mama to be embarrassed.
Do it. Do a third take. Don't say foolishness. Take three. I'm so tired of being in the shadows with this Faraknak. No.
Okay, Frackandack bull.
Right. Yes, that.
Oh my God. And it's like there's certain people that I share with, and I remember one of the hospital stays, a bunch of folks from church. This was when I was still in California. A bunch of folks from church came. I'm not sure who knew why I was in the hospital. I think I told them I had surgery, but I don't know if I told them exactly what the case was. Or you
just say, because I used to be nebulous, abdominal surgery.
Right. You could have had your appendix out.
Right.
And anybody got to know what else is it? What else is in your abdomen? There's a bunch of stuff that goes on in the abdomen.
A whole bunch of stuff.
Okay. So I think I just mentioned, like, sir, this is before the days of Facebook. Yeah, I think I might have just sent a text or something like that. I don't remember what I told them. And some people did know, and some people knew because they had the same issue. So, we would share about the same issue because, they knew what I was talking about. They know about the pain. They know about the bleeding and all this other stuff. But before we get all into that, because what you were talking about, I would definitely want to address that, especially the whole thing about people being in the shadows and just not wanting to talk about. And we can talk about our journeys in particular. But what I remember, my first introduction to fibroids was through you. All I remember is that being in college and you started talking about, oh my goodness, my periods are real bad and this and that and the other. And they just real long. And I just remember hearing an uptick in period complaints because don't nobody like a period. Straight up. Hey, nobody.
To begin with.
Okay. I don't know one woman who loves her period. And then so talk about like when you started realizing, you know what, something ain't right here.
It was like you said, they weren't necessarily longer in days, but they were definitely heavier. You could set a clock to me. You could set a clock to my ass, I'm telling you. But the heaviness, the number of the supplies that I was going through. So I went from, I can't remember what the numbers were back then, but I remember being able to, like let's say a pack of pads would last me like 3 months, And so then it slowly became like 2 months and then like 1 month,
And it's like a pack of what, 24, 36, something like that?
Yeah, like 24 to 36 count. So I was going through more sanitary supplies. In the very beginning, the changes that I noticed were, I saw a direct correlation with that and the fact that I was taking birth control pills.
Okay.
So, gosh, I can't remember exactly how long it took for me to like put it together, but it was almost immediate. I wasn't taking birth control pills before and it was fine. But now I'm taking birth control pills and that's when the horror began.
Was it pain or just mainly you're just running through supplies?
I was running through supplies. I did have pain. I have a high tolerance for pain, so I don't want to not think about the pain, but I have to remember that there was pain. But the fact that I have a high tolerance for pain, when I talk about it with people, pain is not the first thing that comes up. My whole thing was the gushing, the supplies, and just when it got to a point where it was like affecting my life, I'm like, okay, I can't go to school today because, that was never a thing. Or I can't go to work today because what is that? Like you go to work, you want to check, you go to work, and nothing really stops you, maybe like the flu, like the only thing that would take me down was the flu, flu. And that was like mainly out of courtesy. So I don't get everybody else sick. But
right. You just being nice.
Right. I'm just being nice.
If I couldn't spread this to y'all, my tail would be at work.
I'd be at work. Exactly. Exactly. So when it started affecting like life plans, that's when, I'm really like, okay, this is a problem. And of course, things come along when it starts affecting life. You have people, and I remember specifically, and this is where you start deciding who you do tell and who you do not tell, because everybody just did not get it. Oh, I can't go to blah, blah, blah. I'm not feeling well. Oh, well, what's wrong? Oh, my period's here. Like, oh, girl, don't let that thing stop you. Just pop a pill. They're speaking from their perspective. You and your little 2-day period, you can't sit here and preach about mine. I'm in pain.
Okay, with your one little cramp. Your cramp
right.
and bleeding for 2 days. And it's probably like a trickle.
Have a cramp. They don't even have a cramp. There is no cramp, no one cramp. They have nothing. Telling me to pop a Advil or whatever. Like, I'm going to pop something.
It ain't gonna be no Advil.
You don't shut up. Stop telling me what I'm going through. But yeah, when it started affecting life and then also affecting, I don't want to say, well, I guess it did kind of affect friendships because, when friends invite you places and then it's so many times, I mean, you say no, every time you say no, I guess people begin to take it personally. But it's like, don't take it personally. In my head, I'm thinking, stop planning things when I have my period.
Okay.
Like, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you?
Oh my gosh.
You the problem here.
Okay.
That's what, back to your question, when I noticed, like, after I started taking birth control pills, and the main signs were like the number of days were pretty much the same as I said before, but the flow began to be very heavy, and then the pain, it began to increase. And also before, like, I was never one to, even though I would have cramps, I would never take like any medication because I would be like, oh, okay, first couple of hours I'll just have cramps and then I'll be fine. But then that started to be so not the case.
Mm-hmm.
It was like pain medication was mandatory.
And at what point did you decide, okay, I need to talk to my doctor about this because whatever this is not normal, but it seems like it's becoming my normal?
You know what? People appear in your life for reasons unbeknownst to you. And I had a friend who kind of put the bug in my ear when I would, be complaining like, oh, I just don't feel well today. Oh, what's wrong? And, that would kind of start the conversation. She was like, oh, maybe you should get yourself checked for fibroids because, a lot of Black women, because I had never heard of fibroids. I had
Mm-hmm.
not heard of them. So she was telling me all the symptoms, and apparently she knew like a gaggle of women who had the problem. So she was kind of telling me what the symptoms were. She was like, yeah, I really think that you should specifically ask your doctor. Don't just say, oh, I'm having cramps or whatever. Specifically ask your doctor if you could be checked out for fibroids, because that's what it sounds like. She is the reason why I specifically asked the doctor, because, of course, you go and you start talking about your problems or whatever. And, sometimes they try to make things seem like, oh, that's just ordinary,
Mm-hmm.
a normal disorder.
It's a dis in the order. There's no order.
Right. I'm like, what fool? I need another doctor because I'm firing you right now. You're fired. So my friend prompted me to be a little bit proactive about my possible condition. I know I had a condition. So, went to the doctor. And of course, this is all after I've been on the birth control pills. So now, now we're in this hormonal war,
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we'll just change your prescription. So we changed my prescription in hopes to make things better.
Mm-hmm.
Nah, fool. Mm-mm.
What happened? What had
No.
happened was what happened after that? After they changed? So I take it they took you from a higher dose to a lower dose, or what? Or a different brand?
Just a different brand, if I recall. That resulted in, like I said before, you can set a clock to my ass. That resulted in just everything just being super duper all over the place.
Hmm.
So instead of the regularity of every 28 days, now I'm like 25 days, or then I'm bleeding for 25 days. It was just
Mm-hmm.
craziness. It just put my body out of whack, whatever. I can't remember what those hormones were. And of course, when that happened, then the next step is that, well, let's try something else. So they
Mm.
put me on the Depo-Provera, which was the injection
Okay.
that you get. And I believe that's the injection that you got one every, was it once a month or was it once
Every
every
three
3 months?
months?
Yeah, I can't
What was the
remember
difference
exactly.
between that?
Got to
Because I
do
remember at one point you were
research.
on Lupron or something.
Well, see, Lupron is not birth control. That's a whole different depot. Depo-Provera was the actual birth control shot. And however often you were supposed to take it, I think I did it twice because that mug had me. I was on just a perpetual cycle, like a perpetual menstruation. It was horrible. I was like,
Wow.
okay, this is for the birds. And it's not like it was just spotting or light. No, full blown war in my pants. Like,
Mm-hmm.
this is too much. This is way too much. And then, of course, with that comes the inevitable anemia.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
now, because I'm bleeding so much and I'm bleeding so heavily, anemic.
And how old were you when all of this started happening?
When it
What was-
started happening,
Mm-hmm.
I was 19, 20.
Mm-hmm.
About 19 or 20, because I started taking birth control pills at 19.
And I remember when I was at college, that's when I remember you were, because I don't remember you really, really complaining. Because I think when you were 19, you were back at home, but I don't remember any complaints really. I remember things really
that was the
ramped up
beginning.
when I was away. And
Right.
that's when you started telling me about these things. And then you started telling me, hey, I think this is something that you need to be on the lookout for.
Hereditary.
And
Yeah,
I'm
because I
thinking,
had been doing my research at that point because of T. You know, she's the one who planted the seed. Like, look, I know a lot of people who have these same symptoms, and it turned out that they have fibroids. And a lot of them are in the same family. I believe it's hereditary or whatever. And since she was telling me this, I started doing research on my own. And of course, when I went to the doctor, even though I was so underwhelmed by the doctor, I still asked the questions because I'm like, okay, you did go to medical school, so I guess you do know something. And asking about, I know, I'm sorry, no offense to
no
my
disrespect.
MDs out there, but some of your people, some of your tribe members, child, you try to take them back to school. But even though some of the physicians frustrated me, I still continue to ask my questions.
So no matter what, still question. I guess because you never know
Yeah.
what the answers are going to be.
Or it might spark something in them to do their own research. Because it's like, okay, you're in this specialty for a reason. I mean, I don't know if you're rotating through it or this is your passion, or I don't know what the deal is. But, you know, some people, even if they don't know the answer to a question, some people will go to the ends of the earth to find answers, to find solutions. So you just never know if you're dealing with that type of person. So that's why I continue to, even though I was frustrated at times, I still continued to ask my questions or look, unless they pissed me off like that one doctor did, and I had to.
Oh, which one? When you were at the ER?
I think you were with me. Yes.
Girl. Oh yeah, she was condescending.
Yeah, so I had to check her.
Until you started talking to her like, look, I know what I'm talking about.
I dare say I know more.
That was an interesting experience. So I'm like, why is she talking?
It was actually
like
disheartening. It was disheartening, but you know, I wasn't gonna walk away and let it be said that this woman spoke any kind of way because she thought that she knew all the answers when clearly she did not.
And that's another thing, advocating for yourself, knowing what you're talking about and advocating for yourself, because
absolutely,
you know, that we're not, you know, sitting here pissing on the medical field because shoot,
not at all.
Not at all, because
not at all.
We need you. But like you said before, some folks just, they need a course in bedside manner. They need to revisit that again.
Or it's just not their passion, like they're just passing through. So if you're just a passerby, you're not gonna know what you should know about this specialty. And I mean, I guess that's fine. I mean, you're doing what you have to do to get through your program or whatever. But I'm gonna need you I need you to pass me on by. Pass me by.
Okay. Pass me by. I want somebody else to hear my humble cry.
Yeah, I don't want to be. I don't want to be with you.
So even though we're not doctors, here's one thing we've learned. It's empowering to learn as much as you can about your condition. Go in there knowing about your condition. Just don't rely on them to give you every single answer. Do as much legwork as you can, because you might roll in there and say, look, this is what I know. I know all of this. Here is a different starting point. Instead of starting from the point that I've had, you know, doctors tell me, well, this is your uterus. And these are the fibroids.
They draw me a uterus. I don't need you to draw me a uterus.
I don't need that. Let's start with.
You know, at the same time, I appreciate that because, but here, let me tell you, like you said, let you know what my starting point is. So we don't have to go, we don't need the caricatures, the uterine caricatures. No, we don't need that.
You
We
know
don't
what?
need.
Yeah, you are right because they don't know what your starting point is.
Yeah.
And then if
And I
they
get it.
don't do
They have
things
to
like
do
that,
that.
right.
Right. They have to do that. So I get it. I get it. But at the same time, I don't want to waste any time. Look, I don't want to waste my 30-minute visit.
Okay, would you draw on a picture? We
or
already know
or my
this.
15-minute visit, right? And your drawing skills are lacking. No, stop. That horrible uterus look like a water.
Okay, stick figure uterus.
Stop it.
Oh my gosh. Oh man, but that ER visit, I learned from you the importance of knowing what you're talking about. So our discussion turned to bias. What role has bias played in our medical treatment? Real talk, I've had some pretty solid experiences, and the one Lea mentioned earlier, I have not had that experience of having a doctor speak to me in a condescending manner. But there was a University of Virginia study a couple of years ago that linked differences in pain management between racial groups to bias. You'll find that link at planetnoun.com. But when I need to seek medical treatment, especially in an emergency situation, I don't go around looking for evidence of bias, but hey, denying it exists, I think that would be naive. That possibility does rest in the back of my mind, though. You have no idea how bias plays a role into treatment and how seriously they take you, or because you said I remember you said you had a high tolerance for pain. I don't necessarily tell people that I got a high tolerance for pain because I know that maybe some people might automatically think for some strange reason that because I look the way I look, I might automatically have a high tolerance for pain. Sometimes I wonder if I convey that when I tell them, well, no, pain is not my problem, but the bleeding is.
Exactly. And things will always change. Like I could always rely on the blood work. Whenever the blood work results came back, then I had like a bunch of people scurrying around me. See, here's the thing. I would come into the ER and I'm like, hey, I'm talking to everybody. Hey, how you doing or whatever. And I learned very quickly not to do that and to turn on the dramatic sometimes. But most of the time, I'm walking in and I'm telling them, oh, I'm letting them know what's going on or whatever. And I guess for the simple fact that I walked in and I'm talking to everybody, asking people how they're doing, and I'm being polite or whatever, that people are thinking, oh, she's not that I'm well, but she's not as bad as she thinks, or as she's saying or whatever. But every time that lab work would come back with my, and I always get these numbers mixed up, my hematocrit or hemoglobin. I can't remember which one. But anyway, it would be at like 5 and below, then I get the scurry. Like, oh my goodness, she needs to sit down. Get her to the back. Get her a gurney. Then there's one transfusion. We may need to transfuse you. We need to transfuse you. Just all this. And I'm like, I told y'all that I'm having shortness of breath. Like, I told you this. The fact that I walked in, I guess that for them maybe negated what I was saying because I was able to. I probably had no business walking in, but I walked into the ER or whatever. But after they would see the lab results, then it'd be a total change in attitude, Then there's the whole, are you dizzy? You feel faint? I'm like, no, because I would never feel dizzy, never feel faint, never fainted, never some of the things that happen to some women, when they say they become severely anemic. I've heard women say, yeah, I was on an airplane and I fainted. None of that has ever happened to me. Never felt, I don't want to say, so it's never been like a dizziness where it's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to fall. But weakness, I was definitely weak. But still, I would push through. I'm like, I got to go to this ER, so I got to walk up in here and, check in and fill out this form. I've been here a million times, yo.
Okay, why am I filling out?
But after the results will come back for the blood work, totally different attitude.
So even if folks don't listen to you in the beginning, the science will speak.
Yeah. One time, oh my gosh. Okay, so one time I was just in the emergency room. I think I was there for like 5, 6 hours.
Mm.
And I was like, yo, I said, I can go home and go to sleep and come back because this is crazy. I'm not comfortable here. I had already had my blood work taken, but they hadn't had, the results hadn't come back. So I was like, I'm going home. Bye. So went home.
Mm-hmm.
My results were so bad. They sent the sheriffs out.
Oh.
They sent the sheriffs out and they were like, the hospital is saying that, we can't force you to come with us, but the hospital is like imploring you to come back like immediately.
So did you get in the back of a cop car or did you have somebody take you?
Nah, I had somebody take me.
Oh, okay. Wow.
I
That
had
story
some,
sounds vaguely familiar, but I'd forgotten about that. That they sent the
and then
cops
those
out to you to
fools,
tell
look,
you.
and then those fools asked me, they were like, why did you leave? I was like, because you got me sitting in these hard chairs and I'm tired. It's the middle of the night. I should be sleeping. I'm tired. I'm already tired. Like if I would have full 8 hours of sleep, I would have been tired because my blood count was so low. But I'm tired because it's nighttime. This is the time that I normally sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting up here looking at y'all in this emergency room. In
Wow.
this room of emergency.
And they were
And
not
y'all
treating
not
your case
acting
like it
like
was
right.
emergent.
Exactly. Exactly.
So I remember another thing I remember you talking to me about when you were telling me that I should keep an eye out on it. You were saying that it's hereditary and
Hmm.
that I can't remember if you had talked to mommy or that you were going to talk to mommy, but you found out that mommy had fibroids.
She had them. In their generation, they don't talk much. And I wish that weren't the case. And then come to find out in talking with one of our aunties, she had them.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was just all around for us on both
Mm-hmm.
sides
And the stuff
for
that we
us.
heard our parents talk about, sickle cell traits,
Hmm.
we knew about not eating a whole lot of salt
Hmm.
because of the risk of high blood pressure and
Right. Hmm.
strokes and heart
Right.
attacks. We knew about not having too much sugar because of diabetes. But mainly
Right.
those other two, I remember mommy specifically saying, yeah, we're not going to put a whole lot of salt on our food, or yeah, we're going to use this type of seasoning. I don't know if we had a conversation about why we don't have salt on the table. I think that came up sometime during our childhood. And I do remember
Hmm.
mommy explaining, one of the reasons we don't keep salt on the table. She would cook with it, but we're not
Right.
adding to it. After it's cooked, you ain't adding no salt to your food.
Yeah, there were never salt shakers on the table.
That's stuff that we knew, but we didn't know about fibroids. You
Mhm.
didn't know. I didn't know until you told me.
Which goes back to what I said earlier. There's Women's Month, Breast Cancer Awareness Month. There's all these different, and I'm not taking away from any of those causes because we should be aware.
Mm-hmm.
But it just disheartens me that there is not a lot of awareness placed on this condition because it's serious and it affects a lot of women. There was a study done, and I wish I can't even give like a correct citation, but there was a study done, and what the study was trying to figure out, like how many hours of sick time or whatever from work were due to, I don't know if it was specifically from fibroids or just women's conditions. And it was a lot. It was crazy.
Because when you factor in like fibroids, endometriosis,
Oh,
and
mm-hmm.
adenomyosis, things like that,
Right.
probably adds
Exactly.
up to a lot. And I know
Yeah.
when I was a teacher and I had bomb sick days, I had beautiful sick days. Girl, I called the
Hmm.
Eve's day off. I'm taking Eve's
Yeah.
day off I used my sick days every damn school year because I had to take
Yeah.
at least one day off just so I can sit home and bleed because it would not
Right.
have been fair to my children to go to
Right.
school and have
And
to
to
go to
sit
the
in your
bathroom.
chair and right.
I'm like, I'm gonna be sitting on the chair or sitting on the toilet, and I'm gonna be sitting on the
Hmm.
toilet once an hour so I can change so I don't bleed in front of my kids and scar them for life.
Right.
So
Right. We'll be calling the
right.
ambulance for you.
I'm like, my
Like,
children, some of them
teacher.
have, but it's like these are babies. I'm not trying to contribute to the fact that they saw their teacher
Right.
bleeding in the classroom,
Right.
you know.
Exactly.
I took your advice. I went and got checked out, and my doctor told me, I think I was still seeing a pediatrician at that time because I think I was barely 18. So my pediatrician, treat my old teen ass, was like, well, I'm not going to diagnose you with fibroids, but there could be something here. And since you're not displaying any symptoms, basically she was saying it's something that you can keep an eye out on. And, I appreciated that because, she was upfront with me. At this point, it's not anything to worry about. But,
right. Because you're not showing any symptoms. Yeah.
Right. But girl, going back to those sick days, one day a month, Eve's day off. I called it Eve's day off. Still call it Eve's day off. I believe in Eve's day off when it's necessary.
Yes, God. Hallelujah.
He said, hallelujah. Yes, girl. Yes. When my sister first started battling her monsters, her uterine fibroids, it seemed like this condition didn't get much discussion time in the public square. Thankfully, that's been changing a lot. But for us, talking about it has been difficult because there's an element of shame about this women's issue. Now it seems more folks are talking about it, but girl, we need to talk about it with the next generation. We don't have kids, but we have nieces. And one reason why I'm frustrated because more people don't know about this, or maybe I frustrate myself because I don't necessarily want to talk about it because there's some sort of shame that's associated with periods and bleeding.
A woman's problem.
Yes. Yeah. And it's like, you know what? This don't make no damn sense. It don't make no sense. This is why it don't make no sense. Every damn person on this damn earth and every damn country and every damn place has an interaction with a uterus in order to get here. Every person. Exactly. Everybody interacts with the uterus. I don't care if they put the egg and the sperm together and then implant it. You need to be implanted into a uterus.
You slid through, you grew from, you were gestated in.
Okay, unless there's some science I don't know about and they can grow you in a greenhouse somewhere. But
right.
But everyone has an interaction with a uterus in order to be here.
Get here. Yeah.
So menstruation is part of that process that makes it possible for everyone to have that interaction with the uterus in order to be here. So why aren't we more open about this? Folks are suffering. If you're walking around bleeding for 2 months, and I had this happen recently, that's why I ended up in the ER, that affects you. If you can't go places and have fun with your friends and turn stuff down because you're tired all the time, or you don't want, same reason I would take Eve's day off every month. I didn't want
not only being tired, sometimes there's a level of anxiety depending on the activity, because you're like, okay, well, I don't want to run too much because, I might shake something up. Or when you have dealt with it or on this level, because everybody experiences differently. Some, people say, oh, I have fibroids, but they've never really had like major issues, and big up to them. I'm like, oh, you are blessed, honey.
Don't take that for granted.
They just sitting in there, but they're not really acting up. Oh, count it all joy. But when, it affects, like you said, it affects your daily life, then there's a level of anxiety that can accompany not only having to take these physical days or turn down social engagements because of it. It's just, you're anxious. And at some point, because sometimes, and I'm not blaming others because it's all in people's experience, but sometimes when you have people who make it about themselves, like I couldn't show up to your whatever, and they make it about themselves, like she didn't even come to mine, blah, 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 blah. I'm sorry, I was busy dying.
What did you say? I was busy dying.
I was close to death. I'm sorry, but that's a part of it, that's a part of it socially when you encounter those types of things, because then now you have another battle. It's like, dang, now you get invited to something else and it's the same thing. And it's like, you almost don't even want to say, because it does sound like a crock of bull, you almost don't even want to say. So you kind of not that you lose the friend, but you may find yourself distancing yourself because it's like you have too many damn events, and I just no, and you always have them on my period. No.
Or maybe y'all should hang out a little bit more so your periods can be synced. You know how they say when
I
women are
know.
around, so that way they can get
Think
synced to
about
you.
But they might be one of them people, it don't matter, you know?
You know
Remember?
what? Yeah.
For some people, it don't, and I used to always like
The
be in
3 day
awe, like,
bleeders.
wow, you're so lucky. You're the luckiest gal alive.
So after a while, after the both of us dealing with this issue for well over a decade, good God, well over a decade, Lord. After dealing with the anxiety and risk of shame if our secret seeps into public view, you know, we're pretty much done. No more silence. We're talking, honey. And there's plenty of company. Now I'm at the point where I'm tired of being silent about it. I'm tired of keeping it to myself. I'm realizing with like the White Dress Project and, you know, other folks out there, there's like a hashtag on Instagram talking about fibroids. There's a whole bunch of women out there. You know, and so I'm tired of missing out on life because of these things. I mean, I had a surgery some years ago, and I don't know what happened, but it knocked my cycle off a little bit. Girl, I didn't bleed for like a while, and I didn't miss it. I knew it wasn't normal, but I didn't give a damn. I loved it. But now things are back to normal, whatever my normal is, because it wasn't normal before the surgery, you know?
Right.
But and so I remember I had another interview with someone, and they were talking about an event they were going to have the next week. And I was like, oh, yeah, because it was a karaoke event. So I'm like, I haven't done karaoke in a long time. Yeah, I'm going to go. Right. And in the middle, and while I was telling her, something told me, ooh, you better be careful because something might happen. And you might not be able to go because of your period.
Girl.
But I said, I'm not gonna tell this lady that because number one, I want to go. I just want to go.
I know. I stay picking up my phone. Like when people are talking, I'm like, oh, let me see. Because I pull up the app. Is that going to be a good day? Gosh. It's so annoying.
I have other plans. Oh, I'm sorry. I can't make that. I have other plans. Yeah, you do. You're going to be bleeding.
I don't even think I have other plans. That's not a good day for me.
I need to take that lesson from you.
Me why. I dare you.
Ooh, child. And so, girl, and like a week later, was it a week or two? Anyway, when the event came up, girl, guess what? I had a visitor. And I said, you know what? I said I was going to go. I have the time. I can go. I'm just not going to sit home. So, you know, I packed up my stuff. I had my little pad bag, you know.
Oh, girl, we want to talk about that.
Girl, let's take a hot second to talk about the pad bag. Girl, I have a pad bag and I went, and you know, it was heavy, but I said, you know what? I don't care because everybody in here, there were babies in the room. I'm like, all these people in here, especially these young babies and the little babies and the children,
right?
They all had interaction with a uterus.
A recent one. Some of them, like you, little baby, just last week.
Okay, yes. Oh my gosh! And so, you know, I'm tired of missing out because of these things, and I understand sometimes I probably will have to. But I'm tired of being controlled by them.
Yeah. Well, what do you think about additional surgeries? Because I've had 1, 2, 3. I've had a handful of surgeries. I've had so many surgeries. I feel like it's so many. Maybe I'm sure there's somebody out there who's had more than me. But I've had 2 abdominal surgeries. It's been, girl, it's so, ugh.
Girl, you're so many, you're losing count.
I'm serious because it's been, I think, 2 abdominal. But then I've also had 2 myomectomies that were done like hysteroscopically. So, and they used the resectoscope. And then I had like little procedures in between, like, you know, some doctors like, oh, we could do a DNC to stop the bleeding. Fool, I got monsters in me. Like, they gonna laugh. Trust me, they gonna laugh. They gonna laugh because they disrespectful.
Girl, they gonna laugh and bleed. Be like, ha ha ha, blah,
Ah,
blah.
blah. Exactly, because they some disrespectful mugs.
Girl, yes. Girl, the
So
disrespect,
yeah,
girl, that's another conversation too. Woo.
yes, the monsters and their disrespect. So would you consider another surgery at this point?
When I went to the doctor after this recent ER visit, I went back to the
Hmm.
hospital that treated me. No one's going to tell me anything I want to hear, so I just have to figure out what I'm going to do.
Right.
And that's essentially what the doctor said. She said, "Well,
Yeah.
I wish
Yeah.
I had earth-shattering news for you."
Yeah.
And she was all dynamic and,
Right.
very expressive, but I just don't. And I said,
Yeah.
I figured you wouldn't, but I had to come
Yeah.
here just to, just
Yeah.
for the follow up, and I'm doing my due
Yeah.
diligence. And the options are like embolization, another surgery,
Yeah.
like you were saying. She was wondering if there's any activity that these things are stopping me from doing. And I thought
Hmm.
about it and I said, well, I forgot that. And I forgot until I got back home. I was like, well, I should have told her that, there's certain things I would like to do. Like, I would like to at least, do a trial skate with like a roller derby team that I covered for
Hmm.
work one time. I think that would be
Right.
fun.
Well, I was gonna say even work wise,
Mhm.
it could possibly affect you work wise because you have to. I'm sure you don't know what type of stories you're gonna be doing in 5 days.
Nope,
Right.
sure don't.
So you need stamina. You need strength to be able to carry out your job.
I carry a pad bag when I'm out and about, and I don't know. I just hope for the best. Okay, so this pad bag, what's in it? I'm sure women the world over have myriad versions, but here's how we do it.
A good, robust pad bag consists of.
First of all, a cute bag.
Yeah, yes, girl, something in leopard.
Oh, where is mine? Mine has, what is it? Is it leopard? No, it's not leopard. It's tiger. Tiger print.
Okay. An animal print bag, or if pastels are your thing, it could be, like a pink or a mint green or a light blue, something just beautiful, something that makes your heart sing.
Because you need stuff to make your heart
Your
sing.
heart sing, indeed, indeed. I would always have like a full pack of, I call them the purple pads because I don't know the name, but they the biggest ones ever made. They go from front, they go to the window, to
To
the
the
wall.
wall.
The longest pads in the world, and they're purple, always purple.
Okay, the always purple
So,
pads.
yes, them long mugs, not them thin ones, the biggest ones ever made.
I guess
Those.
I should
So a
count it all
pack of
joy
those.
because I don't use the purple ones. I don't use the window to the walls.
Girl, and that's just me being super duper kind. How although I have filled those joints up,
Ooh.
which is just, yeah, that's horrible just to even think about. So that a pack of those and a pack of the ultra tampons
So when you say
because
pack, like how many? This is your like
okay,
your go
so
bag, your go pad bag, because you need a separate go
okay,
bag
so
for other things.
yeah, so it's right. So 24 to 36. Like it's a serious pack. A pack off the shelf in the store.
Hmm.
Like, and those usually are 24 to 36. And so then the tampons, it would be the ultra tampons, purple also. I guess purple is the ultra color, the
Hmm.
largest in whatever, in everything. That count would be, I believe the tampons are like 36 count. So I would always double up. What else? A change of clothes, about 3 pair of panties.
Hmm.
Cause I ain't trip. I am not gonna get caught slipping. So 3 pair of panties. Oh, okay. So back in the day, see now they have better inventions, if you will. But back in the day, it was very necessary to have a depends as backup to the backup.
Yes. Yes.
It's crazy.
So let's talk about depends after we talk about girl, there's so many.
So many layers. So many layers to this. So yeah, the depends. That came about during the heaviest time, and I think you and I, in a brainstorm or whatever, it's like I think it may have started out as a joke, But then it was like, wait a
Oh, wait
minute.
a minute.
Hold up. That just might work.
Okay.
And it worked. I mean, your podonkadonk look a little bit more,
Yeah.
ample. I didn't need none of that in my life. But, it's already ample. But
Girl, but it that changed the way because they were bulky. I found myself, I think some friends from work wanted to hang out. I can't remember where we were, but we were in some, some hip place. And I'm thinking, oh, Lord, they want to hang out. And I'm on my period. But I want to hang out. Because I just want to hang out. So I put on some jeans, and I think I don't even know if this was stylish, but I said, you know what? I'm going to make it stylish. If I walk with confidence, then it's stylish.
It's
so I
stylish,
had on some jeans, a dress that had it was lacy with the layer underneath. I think it was a blue dress.
Yeah.
And some jeans, some shoes that matched the dress. And girl, I had my Depends on underneath. I said, I gotta wear this dress so no one can tell. I can't wear just the jeans by themselves with a little crop top.
There's none of that. You have to wear a duster or something to conceal. Yeah.
Girl. So I remember that, and I don't think I bled anywhere.
Look, not with all that backup.
And it's like just the stories of like leakage and everything. It's like I couldn't go anywhere. I remember going to a park. I think there was Shakespeare in the park one time. I went with a friend, and I think I think she wanted to hang out afterwards, and I couldn't because I had a blanket around me, and I didn't feel comfortable telling her. I bled through all my clothes. I need to go home. So, that was one instance where and then I was hanging out with her friends. So I'm like, no, I'm just going to go home.
Right.
It was a mess. And then that's one way they're disrespectful. And then another way they're disrespectful. Girl, I think you probably remember this. I was packing to go to Chicago, and my fibroids decided they didn't want me to go.
Wow.
Girl.
They really are brats.
Girl, and I went to the ER, and I'm thinking, okay, y'all mofos need to hurry up because I got a flight to catch at whatever o'clock.
Right. Hurry up.
And the dude told me, I remember, he was cute too. He told me, he's like, yeah, you have a prolapsed fibroid. You're going to need surgery. And I said, oh, so that means I can't make my flight? I wouldn't recommend that.
And that's the thing about us. We sit up in an ER talking about, so I can't go out the country? Is that what you're telling me? Like, girl, you need a transfusion. Like, after the transfusion, you good as new. Like, I'm healed. That's how you feel.
Right.
Not good as new, but, that's how you feel. And it's like, the doctors are looking like, sit yourself down. Just go on and be sick. I'm like, but I can't. I cannot.
Okay. I can no longer be sick.
Right.
I was mad though, because I wanted to go. And fibroids were like, ha 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 ha. You can't do it.
Right. I had one that was disrespectful. It was so disrespectful. It was another ER visit that I guess it was taunting the doctor, and that doctor was not having it. It was a pedunculated one. And so those are the ones that are on the stalk. And those can be tricky because sometimes the stalk can twist and that can cause like severe pain or whatever. But this one was just dangling, honey. And then
you're dangling, baby. Go ahead, baby.
Go ahead,
you're dangling, baby. There's a song for everything.
Everything. And so the doctor, when he was doing his exam, he asked me if I could feel it there. I said, no, I can't. He was like, it's so crazy because it's right here. It's on a stalk. It's hanging from a stalk. I was like, oh. He said the stalk is small. He told me that the stalk was small or whatever. Anyway, long story short, he twisted that mug and it came right on out.
Oh, okay.
Crazy. Yes. And I was like, and I noticed after he did that, I was like, oh, I mean, I still had a million more. But pain in that area was different. It really was bothering me. But yeah, that mug was disrespectful and he had to go.
Okay.
The doctor wasn't having it. He was like, oh no, I'm going to get that mug. Yeah.
And then, oh, girl, okay, another instance of being disrespectful. Look, girl, these things are so trifling. They are trifling. They're trifling. They're like the most trifling human being that's not even human.
Yes.
Little bastards. And girl, and this one, so I had this is from the one dangling out my cervix. So it continued to dangle out my cervix for a couple months. And I think on the last day of the dangling, went, got the pre-op, donated blood to myself, and, had them sticking straws.
Exactly.
Stuck them damn straws in my arm so I can give blood to myself. Girl, I'm like,
to yourself,
why?
right?
This is not a needle. You can put this in my shake at the Cheesecake Factory and suck. It's a straw.
Donated blood to me. Yeah,
Yes,
I've
through
donated blood to
straws.
myself several times. Yeah.
And so, girl, I did all that prep work and everything. And I took my time off from work. Either I arranged for time off or I was going to be off anyway. I can't remember what the deal was. I think I had to take time off. But anyway, girl, and girl, the day before I was going to take off for the surgery, the day before the surgery was scheduled, my room partner was about to go to lunch. And I felt something odd. I'm like, oh, no, that feels like my period is trying to come back. Okay, whatever. So she was packing up her bags so she can go to lunch, and because we had half day kindergarten. And then I felt it again.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, oh, well, this doesn't feel like the normal. Okay, so I said, well, before you go to lunch, can I run to the restroom right quick? Girl, ran around the corner to the restroom and found myself this was like a waterfall. And I was like, yeah, I don't think she's going to go to lunch right now. And I don't think I'm going to complete this day at work. And so I went and I told her, I think I need to go to the hospital. And girl, she was fantastic about the whole thing. And I ended up going I think the vice principal drove me to the hospital. I probably should have taken an ambulance, but I didn't want to. I was cheap and I don't want to have to pay for the ambulance. but I probably should have taken it.
You probably heard me fussing. Because I had several ambulance bills. I'm like, what is this? What is this foolishness?
Girl. And it's like the hospital, it wasn't that far away.
5 minutes away. Right.
Yeah. It's like the day before the scheduled surgery. I had the doctor. I had the procedure. Everything was all laid. Everything was planned. And then I started bleeding. Disrespectful. So I ended up in the hospital. And it was only an overnight stay. And I think thankfully, and sometimes things work out as they're supposed to, I guess. The doctor that was on call was a doctor that I had interacted with before in the practice.
Okay, cool.
And so he walked in. He's always happy and, jovial. Hey there. It's like, hi, doctor. I'm not gonna say his name. Hi, doctor, blah, blah, blah. And, he did my surgery. And I think I ended up seeing him and the other doctor who was supposed to perform the surgery in the beginning. So, I was just happy that the person who operated on me had familiarity with me and my case.
Yeah. This wasn't a stranger. Yeah.
In the midst of that disrespect from the fibroids.
Well, as crazy as it seems, now I realize, back then I didn't realize that other women were going through things like this. But I joined a group on Facebook, I think a couple of groups, and sometimes I just read through the stories parallel. Tons of stories that are parallel. And these aren't just women that are in the U.S. This is like women from all over the world, different nationalities. So it's just every one of them probably at some point felt the same way. Like, this is just happening to me. You feel like it's only happening to you because it's not spoken about. There's no platform, no huge platform or whatever for it. But if only I knew long time ago, like, you are not alone. You are not alone.
I am here with you. Though you're far apart, way, I'm here to stay. Because it feels like that when you are that person who is in that restroom and everything is a mess.
Yeah.
and you're trying to make
Yeah.
sure that mess does not
And it
become
looks
manifest
crime
to everyone.
scene.
Yes.
Right.
And it's like
Like it seriously looks like a crime scene. It's like a crime scene in my pants, in my
mm-hmm.
underpants. This is crazy.
And it's like you don't want everybody to know that the crime scene exists because because of the protection, the crime scene can stay.
Right.
We can cordon off the crime
Right.
scene, but girl,
Right.
like that anxiety that you were talking about, it's anxiety because
Mm-hmm.
we know it's normal. Everyone knows it's normal. Women have periods. They have tampon commercials on TV. We saw the women twirling in the OB commercial when we were younger. OB, that's the way it should be. Keep it simple and
Oh
set
yeah.
yourself free from the
Yeah.
extras that you really
Oh,
don't need. Just try
lionasses.
OB and you'll see. Don't ask
Oh,
me why I remember that.
lionasses. Oh, lionasses.
I don't think they were talking about women with fibroids. I think
Right.
they
'Cause
were
I ain't
catering to
never,
normal
I ain't
women.
never jumped for joy.
Right.
I ain't never jumped for joy or twirled.
Girl, I twirled over and hopped into bed.
Okay, I did a horizontal twirl.
Okay. Girl.
The bed.
So freedom. I mean, it's like once you have something like fibroids, to me it feels like a life sentence. Everyone deals with something. Every single person
and
deals
some
with
people
something.
even deal with theirs differently because some people are just cut and dry. Like that, I have them. I don't want them. I'm getting a hysterectomy. However, that's not what I ever wanted to. I never wanted to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Just for a couple of reasons. I never wanted my options to be gone. Number one, my childbearing options. I never wanted those to go away. And number two, I just felt like, and I mean, I'm sure somebody out there will disagree. I just felt like even though it was a problem, that bag is still there for a reason in terms of hormones and the balance or whatever. I'm not a doctor, so I can't speak to things outside of gestating a baby, the other jobs that the uterus has. But I just felt like, okay, there's other things that this bag is here for, not just for holding on to babies.
Well, ours are there for holding on to bastards. And when we say holding on to bastards, we ain't talking about babies.
Monsters. Monsters.
I call mine bastards, my bastard baby bag. Because it's like no child that is born upon this earth is a bastard. I don't care. I don't give a damn what no one says. No
That's
baby
true.
is a bastard.
Because you can't be.
It's impossible.
No, whether or not your daddy is in your father's in your life or not, that's a whole other story.
Yep. So I'm like, I am taking
you have a father.
No one is a bastard. But fibroids, where they come from?
Yeah.
Where they come from? Them okay, I will not say mofo. I will not say it out. Them mofos ain't got no daddies. Ain't got nary one daddy. That's a bastard. Anxiety. Wanting to stave off the potential shame that can come from bleeding fibroids. Stories of disrespectful fibroid tumors. And the fact that they can be monsters and are most certainly bastards. Many thanks for listening to this episode of Planet Noun. People, places, things, and ideas. Please pass this episode along to anyone you know, especially those dealing with uterine fibroids or other GYN conditions. For more Planet Noun, follow on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook at Planet Noun, and you can read more at planetnoun.com. Don't forget to subscribe to Planet Noun on Apple Podcasts and follow on SoundCloud. Thanks again for listening, and we'll have another episode in a couple of weeks. Until then, take care.